Hey, high school literacy leaders, welcome back to Curriculum Chats. This is DLC Foster Yankee, and in this video, we'll be discussing lessons 6 through 7 in the first section of the In the Time of the Butterflies unit. So let's get started with lesson 6. In this lesson, students will analyze context to draw conclusions about nuanced meanings in chapters 1 and 2, analyze relationships among thematic development, characterization, point of view, significance of setting, and plot in chapter 3, and evaluate Alvarez's use of text structure to achieve her purpose in chapter 3. The text for this lesson is In the Time of the Butterflies, and they'll be using several materials: the character note-taking tool, vocabulary list, vocabulary and context tool, vocabulary journal, word map, word sorts, both open and closed, academic discussion reference guide, as well as the section 1 question set. For the lesson overview, we will use context to determine the meaning of unknown words from the novel. We will also read chapter 3, Maria Teresa, 1945 to 1946, and complete 2 entries in our character note-taking tool for Maria Teresa. So to kick off lesson 6, students work with a partner to find and highlight the vocabulary words on the screen, which have enough context in the passage to determine their meaning. Continuing with the context clues work in the next activity, students look at the word anonymity on the first page of chapter 1 and examine its context, annotating or highlighting the contextual clues they use to determine the meaning of the unknown word. They use the questions on their vocabulary and context tool to help them determine the meaning of the word, and on their vocabulary journal, list words and phrases from the text related to the word anonymity. Next, they use the context they have identified to make an educated guess about what anonymity might mean and write the meaning. Then, students use a dictionary to look up and write the meaning for anonymity in their third box of their vocabulary and context tool. To conclude the activity, the class discusses the 2 questions on the screen. Was your definition accurate? Why or why not? For activity 3, students are now working with a partner to determine the meaning of the words clairvoyance, coaxing, and embossed from context, using their copy of In the Time of the Butterflies. They verify each meaning with a dictionary, then join another pair and share their definitions, making any needed revisions. And a note I thought about as I was reading this activity was that they should probably join the other pair before verifying their definition with the dictionary, just so can't talk today, just so the discussion would be more productive and interesting. But they won't have much to talk about if everyone has already compared the definition they developed with the definition in the dictionary. Next, in this optional activity, students continue working with their partner, selecting one word from each of their vocabulary journals that they independently identified and wrote down while reading chapters 1 and 2 and determining if the words can be defined based on context. They use the vocabulary and context tool to assist them and verify each meaning with a dictionary. Next, activity 5 is also optional and has students working with a partner or group to respond to the vocabulary exercises as directed by their teacher. Okay, and I always suggest with this activity to just turn it into a choice board. Require students to do 1 or 2, a certain amount of them, and give them a choice of which ones they complete. To wrap up lesson 6, students read and annotate chapter 3 of the novel, thinking about how Maria Teresa is different from her sisters and adding new or interesting words they encounter in their vocabulary journals. Next, they complete the character note-taking tool for Maria Teresa and respond to the questions on the screen. To support students, the teacher might explain that chapters written from Maria Teresa's perspective are epistolary. The teacher should continue to model good reading and listening strategies. There's a disclaimer in the teaching notes that there is a sensitive point at the end of the chapter when Mate talks about the loss of Patria's baby from a miscarriage, and a cautionary note to use your knowledge of students to gauge their readiness for this subject matter and have them read this portion of the chapter independently if necessary. If students struggle to complete the character note taking tool, there are lines from the text included in the teaching notes to get them started. On to lesson 7. In this lesson, students will analyze relationships among thematic development, characterization, point of view, significance of setting, and plot in Chapter 4. They'll also analyze how characters' behaviors and underlying motivations contribute to moral dilemmas that influence the plot and theme in Chapter 4, as well as evaluate Alvarez's use of text structure to achieve her purpose in Chapters 1 through 4. Again, still reading In the Time of the Butterflies. Just a few tools. They'll need the character note-taking tool, vocabulary journal, and the Section 1 question set. For the lesson overview, we will read Chapter 4, Patria, 1946. We will also complete 2 entries in our character note-taking tool for Patria and analyze how she is introduced in the novel. So for the first activity in this lesson, students begin by reading and annotating Chapter 4, Patria, 1946, and completing their character note-taking tool for Patria, as well as adding new or interesting words they encounter in their vocabulary journal. To support students, the teacher might allow them to share their observations about Maria Teresa from Chapter 3 with the whole group, adding to the displayed charts about each sister as needed. This is the last chapter of part 1 of the book, and students have now been introduced to all 4 sisters, so there should be some beautiful Mirabel sister anchor charts hanging on those walls. To conclude Lesson 7, students discuss and write responses to questions from the Section 1 question set, working either in pairs or a small group. Observations about Patria are shared whole group, with information being added to the anchor charts as needed. As students complete each section of the tool, their grasp of the plot and characters should expand. They have now been introduced to all 4 sisters and read about events, such as their first interaction with Rafael Trujillo, from multiple perspectives. Reading about these events from multiple points of view will improve their understanding. But it is important for students to also appreciate what unique aspects of the story each sister contributes. To support students, the teacher should continue to model this process for students and consider taking 1 or 2 examples from the whole class to begin. So that brings us to our cubs for lesson 6 and 7. For lesson 6, we have students will know who Maria Teresa is and the meaning of epistolary. They'll understand how Alvarez uses the epistolary structure to develop the characterization of Maria Teresa, and they'll be able to evaluate Alvarez's use of text structure to achieve her purpose in Chapter 3 using a written response to the exit ticket question. This chapter is written as a journal entry. How does Maria Teresa's voice through this epistolary style provide insight into her character? And for lesson 7, students will know who Patria is. They'll understand how Patria's behaviors and underlying motivations contribute to moral dilemmas that influence the plot and theme in Chapter 4, and they will be able to discuss and write a response to the question, how does Alvarez introduce Patria? How is her character introduction distinct from the others? Cite evidence from the text to support your answers. And that question comes from the Section 1 question set, and it really could have been any of the questions from the Section 1 question set. So that is a wrap for this video. I welcome your feedback and look forward to hearing from you either on Twitter, via email, or in the comments. While you're here, don't forget to subscribe so you never have to worry about missing a video. Thanks for watching.